So as part of this session, we are going to talk about electronic data interchange. This is all about how the electronic data is coming in and going out, whether it is the insurance company, whether it is the hospital, whether it is the physician office, any state reporting agency, any part of the healthcare. That's what we are going to talk about, and how the electronic data is getting transformed from one side to the another side. That's what it comes down to.
Hello.
Now, moving on, as part of this session, we are going to cover history of electronic data interchange. We will also talk about what is Axtel transaction set, and then we will talk about HL7, which is hierarchical level 7. That's what level 7 is all about. But we'll study in detail to understand what exactly it is and where exactly this is getting used. Now, starting up with the electronic data interchange. So first let's understand the definition of it. What exactly the definition is. As it states, electronic data interchange, EDI, sometimes it is also referred as electronic gateway, always remember that, is a set of standards for structuring information to be electronically exchanged between and within businesses, organizations, government entities and other groups. I'll simplify this for you by giving you a different example. Let's assume when you go to the bank, what happens? When you go to the Bank of America, whether you go to the TD Bank, whether you go to the PNC Bank, XYZ, any bank you go, and you are trying to open a bank account, what happens? They give you a form which you need to fill out. Every form will have their own bank logo on it, but does not necessarily mean they are asking you a different piece of information. All the forms will require you to fill out the similar type of information, which is your first name, last name, zip code, address, all your demographics, social security number, all sets of information, which are going to be common among all the forms which are given to you from the different banks. That means the finance industry who is governing that financial business require them to have certain level of standards. Similarly, in the healthcare sector also, if there is a data exchange, if physician office is submitting the claim to the insurance company or whether hospital is submitting the claim to the insurance company, no matter who is submitting the claim information to the insurance company, they must follow certain guidelines to be in compliant with the HIPAA regulation, that is the HIPAA EDI regulation. That's what all this about. So that's why there is a certain norm, certain procedures, protocols in place which needs to be followed, making sure all the electronic transactions are followed by the industry users, which are your physician, hospitals, nurses, anyone, and they all abide by those rules and regulations. That's what EDI is all about. Now, this is what the history is. It all started sometime back in 1968 when the first EDI standard was discovered. Then we moved on to ANSI Character Committed in 1978, and then we moved on to 1983. So, talking about the history, as I said, it started with 1968 when the first standard was developed. Then we did some enhancement and advancement in 1978. Then we moved on to 1983. Then 1988 we had very robust EDI transaction in place. Now the biggest question over here is, do you need to memorize this? The answer to that question is no. Do you need to pay a lot of attention on this? The answer is no. This is just to give you the background, how it all started. Always more information is good, less information is very bad. So this is your one of the thing where you are getting the more information. Always remember that. So talking about, coming back to the history side of it, you may not necessarily going to get the question from the interview point of view. So do not kill your time just spending and reading about the history of EDI again and again. I will let you know very much where exactly you need to spend time on and what are the topics you have to focus on from the interview perspective to make sure that you have a job if you know that. Now, before we start talking about the transaction set, how that looks, what is loop and what is segment, all those things, how the HIPAA transaction looks like, it's very much important for you to first understand how to read the data. As you see here, the entire 5010 transaction, when we get to that, you will see that is divided into loop, segment and the data element. So the highest level of hierarchy is considered, is called as loop. This may not make any sense to you at this point of time, but just try to remember that you studied something. May not necessarily you understood this at this point of time, but when we will relate with the example, you will understand this. So the highest level of hierarchy what you have is a loop. Then it gets broken down to data segment, and then each data segment gets further broken down into your data elements. Now I'll give you an example. Let's think about, we are talking about subscriber information. Now subscriber information is one area in the file where you will have all the subscriber information. So the top level is your loop. Then under that you can have the subscriber demographics, subscriber ID, and then you could have something related to your unique identifier, which could be your social security number. Same can be done for the provider also. Then what is your data element? The data element is, for example, let's see, your name, address. Under subscriber you could have a first name and last name. That means that smallest unit of information is your data element. I completely understand right now you are lost, and I expect that to be like that, because when you will see the file you will understand how it is. So let's keep it in a high level that each transaction set is divided into loop. Loop further gets broken down to multiple data segments. Each data segment gets further broken down into data elements. We'll talk about it, how that is. Now, electronic transaction in healthcare. There are many transactions. So overall, there are 7 to 8 transactions which are majorly used in the healthcare industry. Let's start it with the 834. As it said, this is the name of the transaction. Benefit, enrollment and maintenance. Just remember, this slide is very important for you and you have to remember this. You have to memorize this. You have to expand your study time on this slide because this is very important. 834. So you have a benefit, enrollment and maintenance. So anytime there is a transaction related to benefit and the enrollment information, that what is the level of coverage a member have or a subscriber have, that data will travel from one end to another end in the form of 834 file. So that transaction name is 834. This all transaction will get elaborated in very detail. So this is just on a high level, but from here the important topic starts and you need to understand that. Then you have the 837 transaction set. Now 837, it's all about claim, and you know the claim is also considered an encounter. Now there are different type of files like 837I, 837P and 837D. When you have a dental claim, the claim information will be submitted in the form of 837D. Whereas if you have institutional claims, hospital claims, that is going to get submitted by the hospital, by the institutions in the form of 837I. Towards the end, if you have a professional claim, general physician, they are submitting the claim specialist, they are going to make use of a form to submit the claim information in the form of 837P. P stands for professional, I stands for institutional, and D stands for dental. So 837I, 837P and 837D. These are the segments, these are the different set of files you have in 837. So depending upon who is the submitter, that kind of a 837 file will be submitted. Then you have 835. Always remember, I'll simplify the way how you need to remember. Your 837 and 835 is hand in hand. What it means, if you have a claim, there will be a payment. But it is not necessarily if you have a claim, your payment is going to be in electronic format only. There are payments which goes out in check also, in paper format. So if the payment goes out in check, you may not necessarily have 835. But that's not the only fact. The fact over here is, some providers prefer to have electronic payment detail as well. And 835 is nothing but kind of a control and balance for all the claims which are being submitted for the processing. So 835 gives the information that how many claims are submitted, what's the payment done for each of the claim or the claim lines, and how the payment is being made. The payment is being made by the check, then the check number will be there. If the payment is done by the electronic fund transfer, then it is going to give you the electronic fund transfer details as part of the 835. So this is all about payment and remittance advice. Remittance means how the payment was done with the reason. If there is a reduction in the payment, it will have the reason why the payment is reduced. If the payment is rejected, the claim is denied, it will have a reason why the claim is denied. So it is what the all 835 is all about. Then you have added 811, which is premium billing. Now try to remember, your 811 and 820 goes hand in hand. And why do I say that? Just look at the briefing. This says premium billing and this says premium payment. That means if someone is requesting, if someone is sending you the bill, what you do? You make the payment. So if the insurance company is generating an invoice, let's say Walmart is the organization who have 500 employees covered. So for 500 employees, insurance company is going to generate an invoice and send it. In what format they will send? They will send in the form of 811. Now the payment needs to come back. Now the payment needs to come back. The premium payment is coming. The premium will come in the form of 820. So now the employer is sending out the payment to the insurance company in the form of 820. So these are the standards which they need to follow. Then you have 270 and 271. Again, this 70 and 71 kind of a request and response. How you have 11 and 20. 270 is the eligibility inquiry and 71 is the response. So what happens if you go to the physician office, they take all your necessary information over the phone and then they send out to the insurance company how they are inquiring what eligibility you have about the particular service with the help of 270 transaction. And then the insurance company will reply back with the eligibility information that okay, this is the person, this is what the coverage is, XYZ, in the form of 271. Then you have 276 and 277. Now again, this is a request and response. So the physician, hospital, any provider has submitted the claim, sent the claim, and they are requesting the information that, hey, I submitted 5 claims. I need to know the status of that. So when they are requesting, they will generate the 276 transaction. When they will get a response from the insurance company, from the payer, they will get the 277. That is what the transaction set is all about. Saying that, okay, the number 1 claim is rejected, number 2 is paid, partially paid, whatever it is. That's what 76 and 77 is all about. Now, then you have 275, patient information. Patient information is all the clinical chart that, okay, what kind of a treatment is given to the patient, what physician office have prepared, what hospital, what kind of a treatment the physician office is sending out to the hospital. So this is all about patient information that, okay, the patient is a diabetic patient, this is on the treatment from XYZ, These are the medications the patient is already these are the medications patient have already taken or taking. That is your 275. Then towards the end you have 278. 278 is healthcare service review. Let's assume that someone is in the hospital and seeking some kind of a medical attention. Now, before the service could be provided, I am not saying in the case of emergency, but there are cases where the hospital, before providing the services, they need to have a consultation and the approval from the insurance company, whether this service is eligible to be provided on this particular patient or not. In that case, they will send out the 278 for review. That okay, this is what the details are, just look at it and tell us whether this is something we can perform the surgery or something like that. That is your healthcare service review. These are all the transactions which you have, which are very aggressively used from the payer pays. And you have to have a good knowledge about each of the transactions. Not necessarily you need to know A to Z about all the transactions, but bear in mind you need to understand that what exactly each transaction does. And that will be your nailing point when you go for an interview. If you are able to talk about all these transactions, I assure you 100% you will have a better luck on that. Now let's move on and understand each of them in detail, what they cover. This is exactly how your provider payer architecture looks like. So as you see here, this is your payer world. From this box you have a payer world, and on top you have a submitter. Submitter, you have a clearinghouse, you have any small agencies, subsidiaries, health exchanges, providers, everything. Now what are these blue lines? As you see, there are some which are both directional and there are some which are one directional, because the payment will always go out from the payer to the outside agencies, and the acknowledgement is also required. The acknowledgement, the control and balance will be done. Now here you need to understand, see, you have eligibility which goes both way, where you have the inbound as well as the outbound file. You have enrollment which is also inbound as well as outbound. Then you have a claims which is again inbound and the outbound, and then you have a payments which is inbound and the outbound. Now these are all the different kind of transactions. Now you see here you have eligibility system, membership, claim adjudication, billing, payment, and these are all the transactions. So the payer side you are utilizing all the transactions. May not be you are using all the transactions for the same external body, but you have different agencies which are participating in the overall communication, inbound as well as outbound. So this is how your architecture look like. If you see the very, I would say 500 feet high picture, if you need to see, this is how your system will look like. Now this is just to give you a little understanding how the EDI look like. Now let's start understanding in detail what exactly each area covers. As I explained earlier on a high level, 834 transaction set represents a benefit enrollment and maintenance document. It is used by employers as well as unions, government agencies or insurance agencies to enroll member in the healthcare benefit plan. If you have any question, I would love to take the questions right there. So you can just type it off, I'll explain it again, but I have already explained all this, so I'm just reading all these things. Now the 834 transactions may be used for any of the following functions relative to health plans, like new enrollments, changes in a member's enrollment. If someone is getting terminated or someone is switching from HMO to PPO, these type of changes. Reinstatement of a member enrollment or disenrollment of a member. So these are the type of informations you get as part of 834. Then there is something called 999 implementation acknowledgement. What it is? What happens when the transaction gets submitted, the claim gets submitted, there has to be a response file stating that okay, you submitted 3 files, we processed 2 files, there was some issue with 1 file, so we could not process that 3rd file. That is the acknowledgement. So if you need to see the raw data which is being received by the payer, this is exactly how your raw data will look like. And all the asterisk signs which you see, all the asterisks are the separators, which is dividing two values and separating two values from one another. So this is all the transactions data would look exactly like this. That was the whole purpose of having this, so that you see, you do not read these type of information by text file. There are some tools, there are some applications which translate these files and converts the data into the user-friendly application. That's how the analyst will read. So this is your 999 acknowledgement sample data. Then you have the 837 claims. Now let's talk about the claims. As it says, 837 transaction set is the format established to meet HIPAA requirements for the electronic submission of the healthcare claim information. The claim information included amount to the following for a single care encounter between patient and provider. So this is between patient and provider we are talking. Now look at the, if you recall, we were talking about the loop, segment and the data element. So see here, this is your highest level of hierarchy, and you see this is 837P. So this is the professional file. You have this ST. ST is your data segment, and then under that you have ST1, 2, 3. This is your data element. That's how it is. Now see here, TS 2008. This is your loop. Under that loop you have HL. See, here is a plus sign. Hierarchical level, billing provider hierarchical level. This is your data segment. When you expand that, you will have billing provider ID, billing provider first name, billing provider last name. Those are your data elements. That's how you read the hierarchical level loop, data segment and the data element. We will have further discussion on this because we have one project which we will do. Now see over here. The professional file format, that's what we are trying to see here. So you have a column number, column name and the description. So as you see here, 1500 item number. So you have a formal form which gets submitted by the physician or the providers, which gets translated into electronic format. So what it means actually. So see here, 1500 item number correlates to the field number on the CMS 1500 paper claim form. That's what it translates to. NC 837 loop and segment. What it is? Loop and segment that correlates to the CMS 1500 paper claim item number in the column 1. So if you see the CMS form, go back to and track the CMS form, the chapter where we studied about CMS, you will see that's what gets translated into the electronic format. Paper claim field name. Field names for correlating CMS 1500 paper claim form field numbers in column 1. Again, translate it back and track it back to the CMS form. Then you have electronic claim field element name, which is your field or the element name for correlating electronic claim field number, loop and segment in the column 2 and column 4. So what it is trying to tell you is that how each information which gets submitted on the paper gets translated into the electronic format. That's what the NC 837 is. So you have a paper form which someone is filling out, and when it gets converted into the electronic, for claim data I am talking about, it will be converted into ancillary 837 file. Let's talk about 835. Now we are talking about 835 transaction set. As I explained, it has to do with the payment and the remittance. Now this transaction primarily used by the health insurance plan to make payment to the healthcare providers to provide explanation of benefit or both. When a healthcare service provider submits an 837 healthcare claim, the insurance plan uses the 835 transaction to detail out the payment to that claim, including what? Including what charges were paid, reduced or denied, whether there was a deductible, co-insurance or copay, any bundling or splitting of the claim or line item. Bundling means when you have a 3 lines, but all the 3 lines can, for example, I'll give you anesthesia or let's say a surgery, okay? You cannot have a claim where you will just say that, okay, one line is for making a cut, making a C-section, another line is for the performing the surgery, and the third line is going to be for stitching out. You cannot have a claim just for the stitching. You have to have a claim where you have a cut. See, I'm not talking about in case of the emergency, I'm talking about the surgery claim. So what happens that making a cut and performing the surgery and adding on covering that and doing the stitching and the cut, both are going to paid under the major surgery procedure code. So that is called a bundling. You are bundling multiple lines together. Similarly, it could be other way around too. For example, let's assume there are 10 units of anesthesia claim. Now out of 10 units, the claim is only eligible to get paid for 5 units. So what happens? The system will break that claim, break that line of 10 unit into 2. And what it will do? It will reject that 10 unit line and it will have 5 unit and 5 unit. It will pay for 5 unit and it will reject the another 5 units. So in that case, what happened? The claim was split by the processing system. So these type of information needs to be provided to the provider, because provider submitted only one line and he is receiving 3 lines. If the justification is not provided, it will create lot of confusion. How the payment was made? Such through a clearinghouse. If there was a clearinghouse, it will have to have all that piece of information. Now let's move on to EDI transaction set 811. Now the 811 transaction set can have multiple layers. You could have a single account billing, you could have a group billing account, you could have a consolidated billing account, and I'll explain you what is single account versus all these things. Single account means, think about it, you have a Walmart New Jersey, Walmart New York, Walmart Virginia, Walmart Atlanta. These are all individuals account. So company wants to have a single account. So New Jersey wants to get New Jersey billing, Virginia wants to have Virginia account billing. So they all are handling it on the state level. That is just single account. That is just one example. They could have a single account, something like that. Okay, if it is related to customer service handling, that is one account. If it is the plan management and the benefit management, that could be a single another account. So depending upon how they separate out the services. Group billing account. Group billing account means Walmart will say, give me a single account, single bill for all of the states. So that is your group billing account. So that Walmart is one group, single entity, and you are giving it for the entire state. The third one is consolidated billing account. Now consolidated billing account means you have a billing account separate for New York, separate for New Jersey. What you are doing is you are breaking down that 100 for New York, another 100 for New Jersey, 50 for Virginia, like that. You are breaking it, but again towards the end you are giving the aggregated bill to say that, okay, these are single accounts, but still you consolidate all the accounts together and make it a consolidated billing account. That's what it is. Now, so as it says that EDI transaction set can have multiple type of account depending upon what the buyer is looking for and what the agreement they have. Then you have the 820. Now the 820, it is similar to the EDI 835 transaction set. 820 is specially for plan sponsor, that is companies providing healthcare benefits to their employees, like we are talking about like a group, to transmit information on premium payment to the health plan. The 835 is used by the health plan for transmitting information on payment to the healthcare provider, whereas your 820 includes, it is used by the businesses to provide instruction to banks for making a payment, such as fund transfer to a payee. So you see that where these 820 is getting used by the businesses directly to individual supplier to communicate the details of a pending payment, including adjustments reflected in the payment. Then you have by companies providing premium payment information to health insurance plan. So you see that these are the different situations where 820 transaction set is very popular and commonly getting used. Then we have the 270 and the 271. See, if you know only this much what we have covered as part of the session, then also you are good to go for your interview. But you just need to make sure you know the every piece of the information what we have covered over here. Now the 270 healthcare eligibility benefit inquiry transaction set is used to request information from the health insurance plan about a policy's coverage, typically a relation to a particular plan subscriber. The 270 document typically includes the following: details of the sender of the inquiry, who is receiving that information, name of the recipient for whom you are requesting that piece of information, details of the plan subscriber. If there is a difference between the patient and the subscriber, then you need to provide the subscriber also. Description of eligibility or benefit information requested. What piece of information is requested. Then you have that, and so that is your 270. And what 271 will come back? 271 will come back with exact set of information with the response. Then you have the 276 and 277. 76 transaction set is a healthcare claim status inquiry. It is used by the healthcare provider to verify the status of a claim submitted previously to a payer, such as an insurance company, HMO organization, government agencies like Medicare and Medicaid or CMS, you can say that. 276 transaction is specified by HIPAA for the electronic submission of the claim status request. This typically includes provider identification number, patient identification number, subscriber information, that is very much important, date of service which is being questioned, what are the charges which was being submitted. So these are the piece of information which typically goes out in the form of 276, and then 277 will come back, because 277 can look up the information in the system from the payer side based on these piece of information and then reply back that what is the status of that claim. Then we have the 275. The 275 actual transaction set contains the format and establishes the data content of the patient information transaction set for use within the context of an electronic data interchange. So as it says that all the transaction sets we have talked about so far, it's all relates to 270 X12 transaction set. This transaction set can be used to communicate individual patient information request and patient information between separate healthcare entities in a variety of settings to be consistent with confidentiality and use requirements. What it means? Maybe the physician is sending the information to the specialist, specialist sharing the information to the physician, hospital sharing with the PCP, PCP sharing with the hospital, multiple settings. That's why the patient information consists of demographic, clinical data, patient chart and other supporting documents. That is your 275. Then we have the 278. What it is? The 278 transaction set is called healthcare service review information. A healthcare provider such as a hospital will send a 278 transaction set to request an authorization from a payer, such as an insurance company. The hospital is asking the insurance company to review proposed healthcare services to be provided to a given patient in order to obtain an authorization for these services. So this is very much clear where exactly 278 comes into the picture. 278 transaction set can be used to submit information in the following categories. And what are those? Advance notification, for example, scheduled patient, specialty care or other services. Completion notification, if the patient comes into the hospital and then gets discharged, all this is getting reported. Information copy, for any healthcare service review information sent to service provider. So that is very much important for the compliance reason. Change notification, for reporting changes to previously sent information. So if let's say something got reported today as a paid status to CMS, but tomorrow that claim needs to be rejected because it was paid in error, then that means we need to provide the change notification, and that will go as part of your 278. Now how your EDA process overall looks like for you, this is how exactly it looks like. So this is patient, you in the sense. And then you have all the transaction sets which are around. You have 837, 275, 278, 835, 270, 271. So these are all the different transaction sets which you are looking into it. So this is all the transaction set we have covered so far. And now moving on, which is the other side of the world. And why do I say other side of the world? I'll explain you the reason why I say the other transaction, which is not very popular on the payer side, but still that comes under the healthcare and that comes under the healthcare umbrella, but still that is the another branch of the healthcare. HL7. Hierarchical level 7. This provides a standard, the exchange, integration, sharing and retrieval of electronic health information. These standards define how information is packaged and communicated from one party to another, setting the language, structure and the data type required for flawless integration between systems. So that's the overall overview of HL7, but what exactly it is, I'll explain you here. HL7 is, see, the pharmaceutical companies are there, which is considered to be a life science. The pharmaceutical companies are the different branching of the healthcare. One side you have a payer and provider, another side you have the life science, which is the pharmaceutical companies. Now, the pharmaceutical companies overall launching one medicine takes around 15 to 16 years of time frame before it can be launched in the market for regular use. That's the overall timeline. Now, before it can be launched in the market for the regular use for the prescription, this has to go through aggressive FDA processes and the clinical trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, all those phases. So now the physicians are working for the pharmaceutical companies as a consultants, because the physicians are the one who can provide input that how is the, I would say, let me take a step back. And I'll take one step back before I explain how it works. What happens when the medication is launched? The physicians are called out and then they nominate themselves that they are going to participate in the clinical trial process for that particular medication. Similarly, they call out the patients too. So if let's say they are trying, if Pfizer is the company, they are trying to launch a medication for diabetes, they will call out diabetes specialists as well as diabetic patients to participate in the clinical trial process. So what will happen? The physician will monitor the diabetic patient by prescribing that new medication, and the physician will track the patient progress. And that's how it goes back and forth. Now all the patient tracking improvement, or I would say downsizing, everything will get reported to the pharmaceutical companies, and that is the outcome of the clinical trial. And all these things needs to be documented because of the FDA regulation, Food Drug Abuse Regulation, okay? Food Drug Association regulation, it needs to be tracked. Now, all these transactions, all this data reporting, how this is happening on the clinical side, that is called a clinical side. This is happening in the form of HL7. So if you are looking for the clinical specialist, drug safety specialist jobs, then that is the another side of study which you need to do, or the training you need to do. Otherwise, on a high level, if you need to understand HL7, this is what HL7 is, which is very popular on the pharmaceutical side for the clinical data reporting. That concludes your HL7 on the EDI side. Now here I have added some quiz for you, which are a very basic questions, and I expect you guys to answer that. What is a 837? How many type of 837 in healthcare EDI? What is 276 transaction? Which transaction is used for premium billing? Which is the transaction used for authorization request? Is there any difference between institutional and professional 837? Now all the questions we have already answered as part of this session, and I don't see anything could be a showstopper for you over here. If you see there are some topics which is kind of a showstopper for you, you are not able to understand, you are not able to answer that, I would love to take the question back on this. So this concludes the EDI topic for us today. So this is end of the session.